Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Parker, this is Kevin. We're realtors with Remax Alpine Realty in Canmore area living. And in this video, we're gonna talk about the pros and cons of living in Canmore. Let's get into it.
Awesome. So the first pro of living in Canmore is endless adventure. Activities for all seasons. But right now we're in the winter, and I would say that probably the number one thing around here is skiing. We have some phenomenal ski hills, whether you're in Lake Louise, Sunshine, Norquay, or even out in Kananaskis in Nikiska. So fantastic place to go skiing.
Another winter activity that we're very fond of is skating. There's some fantastic lakes around here that you can really experience some skating like no other.
Lots of hiking, whether that's in the summer or the winter, canoeing. One of our favorite things to do is a really good friend of ours owns Canmore Raft Tours. He just does phenomenal raft tours down the river, and we've had the opportunity of doing some of that with him, and got to check that one out for sure.
Another popular thing too is trails. We have an abundance of trails here in Canmore, whether you're hiking, whether you're running, whether you're just out for a walk. There's lots of biking as well, mountain biking, road biking. The famous Legacy Trail is here as well, where you can bike to Canmore and Banff and back. So some fantastic trails for whatever activity you like to soak up.
Don't be afraid to check out the horseback riding in Lake Louise. Again, fantastic adventure that we've heard about.
Con number one, cost of living. In Canmore, we have a little bit of a premium when it comes to some of our daily necessities, whether it's groceries, services, shopping, fuel. That stuff can be a little bit more expensive when compared to some other places such as Calgary.
What is really good though here in Canmore is we find there's 90% of our businesses are locally owned and operated. So they do offer some discounts, whether it's the local grocery stores, Safeway or Save On, the first Tuesday of the month, 15% off. Some of the restaurants, some of the businesses, they have local deals, local food menus on certain days, certain times. So there's always some good deals in and around the town, and the locals, we take care of the locals. So it is a great place, even though the cost is high.
Our second pro is location. Located an hour west of Calgary, Canmore is located in the heart of the Canadian Rockies.
Whether you want to go to Lake Louise, which is 40 minutes away, go to Kananaskis, which is 40 minutes away, or just go straight through to Vancouver. We are, as Parker said, at the heart of the Canadian Rockies and the gateway to the west.
We're also located 20 minutes down the road from Banff and Banff National Park, which is a very popular place for people who are visiting the Canadian Rockies. Another pro is we're only 1 hour from the Calgary International Airport, so very close for people who are traveling, coming here for vacations, or just need that access to get to where they're going. Our con number two is traffic. In Canmore, we don't necessarily have the best road infrastructure. So when it comes to weekends, our peak season, which is the summertime and holidays, it can be a little bit difficult to get around if you're traveling by vehicle.
Luckily, we're pretty small, so it's easy to get around, whether you walk or you bike. Another difficulty which isn't really traffic, but does pertain, is paid parking. We have paid parking downtown, which can be a little bit sticky. But again, the town is really easy to get around, so it doesn't seem to be as bad. The last thing might be the train. The train does go through the middle of town. I grew up in Banff, and the train went through Banff, and it didn't really bother me, so I don't notice it. Some people say that it's a little bit of a bothersome, but for the most part, I don't think you'll find that it will bother you.
And to that point, in the train, when it comes to Canmore and Banff and being in this area, they're actually not allowed to sound their horns unless there's a reason to. So for example, if there's wildlife or vehicles or something like that over the tracks, so usually you're not going to necessarily hear it when it comes to them sounding their horn. And then that transitions into our last con, and it could be kind of a little bit of a pro, again, when we're talking just about traffic, is wildlife. Right. Wildlife are very popular around town, whether it's elk, you could see the odd bear depending on the season, and it's just something to definitely be aware of.
Making sure that, we buy bear spray. Lots of local businesses sell bear spray, have that on you at all times so that you can be safe, because obviously the wildlife do live here with us.
but they are known to be pretty comfortable around the people. So there are lots of opportunities to get some good photos or content for people who
And
are
that
visiting.
can be a pro and a con when they live around and they're comfortable around the people, right? So
For sure.
just be aware. There's certain times of years, obviously, when the elk are mating, and you know, or they've just had their babies, and they're very, very, very protective at times. So, but again, lots of people come here to see those animals and to take some beautiful pictures with the mountains in the backdrop. So, while it can be a con, it's more of a just be aware of when you're coming to town, and just be safe when you're here. All right, off to pro number 3. It's an awesome place to raise a family. You know, I lived in Banff, grew up in Banff, left when I was 15, and obviously when you're young, you don't necessarily appreciate it. But coming back here and having my family here with me, having Parker in business with me, and my other kids in town as well, one's a teacher, it's just fantastic place to raise a family. You know, overall it's very safe, very little crime. Again, it's just been fantastic. There's so many young families, and it's so family oriented around the area, and everybody's really friendly, and you get lots of people coming and going, and tourists, and so it's just a great place.
Another thing to highlight too when it comes to raising a family is schools. Canmore has some fantastic schools, known as some of the best in Alberta. And with the population that we have around 16,000, those school communities are really closely and tight-knit. So it's fantastic for kids learning. They get to connect with their teachers. We also have a Canadian Rockies Outdoor Learning Center, which allows kids to experience some of the benefits to living in the Canadian Rockies and learning about health, wellness, and arts and culture and stuff like that, which is super unique and something that I didn't have the ability to take as a kid. So I think that is special for this generation especially.
Yeah. And along with the big ski hills, there's some fantastic sporting clubs here, whether it's the Nordic Center, Elevation Place, which has a pool, a climbing wall, a gym, a cafe. So there's just some fantastic facilities and sporting clubs around the area that allow you to experience not just the outdoors but the indoors around Canmore. The Nordic Center is a fantastic place, and I would recommend you check it out for sure.
Our con number 3 is affordable housing. Our average sale price here in Canmore hovers around $925,000, which is significantly up from just down the road being in Calgary at around $500,000. So you definitely have pay to play. One of the big things is for Canmore, especially being a younger person, it's a difficult place to start out in.
Yeah. Well, rent typically is a little bit more expensive as well, ranging from $1,500 all the way up to north of $4,000. So again, affordable housing can be an issue. Well, it's still a great place. And Canmore, you know, it's tough to start out.
For sure.
But you can also make better money here, I would suggest. So
For sure.
While it's tougher to start out, and affordable housing is definitely an issue, and not just an issue in Canmore, but an issue across our nation for sure. The hard part about Canmore is we just have so little land to develop. Yeah. So that's what keeps our prices high. It is there's a huge demand for property. Obviously, we've talked about a ton of pros and a few cons. You can see why so many people want to come here. So affordable housing, it's a really tough issue. It's a tough issue across the board. But I believe with the infrastructure and the ways that we can generate income in town, affordable housing can be taken care of a little bit that way. So our last pro is local businesses. Over 95% of the businesses in town are locally owned and operated, which creates usually some unique experiences, right? Whether it's unique eateries, distilleries, they do a fantastic job. Whether you get the restaurants where you got the awesome views. So locally owned businesses are pros for sure.
One of the cool things about local businesses too is they have relatively the same staff there all the time and the same managers, and you usually see some of your friends or connections that you have. So it's a great spot for people who are just moving to town to go out and meet some new people and some people who are really involved in our community. And there's lots of different variety here. We have a ton of options when it comes from, you know, your just appetizer kind of stuff to moving into some really nice fancy meals to some unique restaurants. So it's a cool spot for that.
Yeah, I mean, coffee shops, sporting stores, the sports garage. I mean, all these different types of businesses that are locally owned and operated, that where you're going to actually see the owner in the store, out in the community. So, I mean, that is definitely a pro. And I think it goes back to how safe it is here, right? Totally. I mean, when you have that kind of energy around the town, it just makes for a really, really safe place. So we applaud the local businesses. We try and do most of our shopping, and obviously you have to, because there's 95% locally owned. So one of our great pros in our community.
Our last con can also be viewed as a pro depending on what your interests and hobbies are, and they're the long winters.
Sometimes in the January, February months, the winter can get a little bit long, can get a little bit cold, can get down to the -20s, even the -30s. It does take away a little bit from the pro of going skiing, although we do get some tourists that come and, they paid a lot of money, so they do get out and ski. Us locals, we don't necessarily. We wait for the big powder days and try and get out to the mountains that way.
And I think that's the best part about Canmore in the winters, especially for someone like us, is it can be cold, but if you're into the winter activities, it's a lot of fun. So being in the cold and being able to do all these winter activities makes it go by a little bit faster, and honestly makes it really enjoyable.
And the mountains, they look way better with the snow on it, that's for sure. So
yeah.
Great whether you love the summer or the winter. While it could be a pro, the long winters, we love it here.
Thanks for watching our pros and cons video. If you have any comments about Canmore or the Bow Valley, and maybe some of your guys' pros or cons about our community, drop them in our comment section below. We'd love to hear from you.
It'd be great to know what other people think about our town. Obviously, we're a little biased. We work and live here, but drop them in the comments below, and we look forward to our next video.
Yeah, stay tuned.
See you next time.